Well, he is a model, an actor, an activist, and a singer. So what can't the talented Laith Ashley do? We are super excited to welcome him today to The Agenda. Welcome, Laith.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and let's get started.
Welcome, welcome. We're super excited to have you here. I want to start from the beginning. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. When, you know, the way that you grew up, you're Latino. So tell me a little bit about that background.
Okay, I wouldn't say that my upbringing was anything out of the ordinary. I am first-generation American. Both of my parents are immigrants from the Dominican Republic, so for them, education was very important. So I made sure that I excelled in school. From a very young age, I'd say 4 or 5 years old, I knew that there was something a little bit different about me. I tended to gravitate towards things that were stereotypically more masculine, and when I was a kid, it wasn't necessarily a problem. It became a bit of a problem as I got older and I entered my adolescence, my teenage years. But as a kid, my parents were super, super supportive. Anytime I needed help with school, they were there. I played a lot of sports. I played basketball, baseball, and I boxed. 2 of the sports my dad did semi-professionally. So my dad played minor league baseball, and he was also a boxer and a trainer. So I wanted to do everything that he wanted to do. My mom wanted me to do more feminine things like dance, and I thought, I mean, dance could be, it's just, gendering things is kind of, it's silly, but it's something that we do, especially being, like my family being immigrants. I think they wanted me to have the best shot at a good life here in the US. Let's see, fast forward to when I was around 10, 11 years old, and I overheard a conversation with my dad and a friend of his where he said, the friend commented on me being a tomboy and warned my dad that if he doesn't intervene somehow, I didn't understand how exactly, but I would end up being a lesbian, and that could be difficult for me.
It's funny how I feel like we have similar stories in that way, because someone went to my dad and told him too. But I'm kind of curious, just because I can relate to that. Like, how did that make you feel? Like, were you scared? Like, was it something that you were even comfortable with discussing with your dad at the time?
I don't know if I understood it. I was a kid. In terms of sex and sexuality, I may have had an idea, but I don't know if I comprehended what any of it meant. I was just busy being a kid and being myself. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to be on the basketball court playing basketball, and everyone who happened to be playing in that moment were boys, then I would be like, okay, I'm the only girl on the court, and I didn't see anything wrong with that. I was just living my life.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly like us as you know, Latinos, we've all gone through it with our families and at that moment of coming out and everything. But what was it like for you once you decided, it's like, this is who I am, I want to be my true self? And how did you break that conversation with your parents? It's already hard enough, you know, like I mentioned, for me, for example, coming out to my parents was a very complicated ordeal. Yeah. I want to know a little bit about what your experience was like. I mean,
both of my parents always instilled in me, like, kind of putting my foot down when I believed in something, and they never really stopped me from kind of speaking my truth and challenging certain beliefs and certain standards. I was always like, for example, with the dishes, if I have a younger brother, I'm the oldest of 4, excuse me, and if my mom said, hey Ash, go do the dishes, and I would say something like, I didn't dirty any of those dishes there, but my little brother did, let him do it. And if she made a comment like let's see, if she said, you're the girl, so you need to do the dishes, I would say, I would just comment like, this isn't the 1950s, and if I didn't dirty that, I'm not cleaning it. And I would grab my younger brother and bring him to the sink and say, have fun there.
Love that. Yeah.
So when I learned what trans was, I mean, I had an idea of what it was when I came out the first time, because I did come out as gay when I was around 16. or I was outed actually by my aunt, who questioned me about why a beautiful young woman like myself did not bring a young boy in like home to introduce to my family, and I was like, oh, I'm not interested in that. I just want to focus on school and sports. And she was like, sure. So who's the person that you go see in Brooklyn every weekend? And I was like, oh, how did you know that? So she told my parents, and you know that they always know.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
they
true.
always. And there's always the one that I always say. There's always that magical character. Like in my case, was my brother. So
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but definitely we can all relate to the nosy Tias in our lives. But you're hanging out with us today on the Q Agenda. We'll be right back.
And we're back with more from Laith Ashley. So during the break, everybody was like, oh, I want to know this, I want to know that. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. You were saying just before the break, you left us all hanging. You're nosy Tia. She said, are you a lesbian, basically?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then you had to come out again. So talk about kind of that moment, that journey for you.
So when I was outed by my aunt, and I basically confirmed that I was dating girls, I didn't necessarily identify as lesbian. For some reason, from the very beginning, that term always didn't. It never sat right with me. But I did use gay. And when I went to college, I started. I don't know what I was looking for. I remember just sitting at my computer and going on YouTube and finding videos of people transitioning. And from growing up in the city and going out to the Village and Chelsea, I recall seeing transgender women a lot, but I didn't have the language to describe who they were or what their identity was, and I was afraid to ask, and so I would just mind my business and just respect them as whatever it is that they wanted to be called. So when I got to college again and I found these YouTube videos, it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, this is me. This makes sense. And I was around 19 years old. But it wasn't, so I came out to a couple of really close friends of mine in college and told them that this is who I was. And I was struggling with my beliefs, my upbringing. My mom is Pentecostal Christian, and a lot of those values were still there. So even though I was dating girls for a while, I kind of went back into the closet because I became born again Christian.
Yeah, but like,
yeah.
wait, did you just say you became a born again Christian?
Yeah, I was. My mom made me read this book called Divine Revelations of Hell.
Well,
and it basically scared me back into the closet, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be a sinner. I don't want to go to hell. I'm scared. I'm never dating anybody again. So literally, I still looked like me. I had cut my hair. I had a short, like, buzz cut. I was wearing boys' clothes, and I was hoping that with prayer and in time, all that would go away, and it never did. I just didn't want to be here anymore.
But in a way, God made you heterosexual.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even call myself that.
I'm saying that now, identifying as male, dating, I don't know who you date actually, but if you did, somehow you would, haha, God.
I would get queer. No, but yeah, so I told a few of my friends, fast forward to like after I graduated, I still wasn't comfortable. I just didn't know if that was the right choice for me. And then I started working at Callan Lord Community Health Center. It's an LGBTQ health center in New York, and I came across queer people of all identities. They were showing up, just being themselves and living the quote unquote normal lives that my family told me I wouldn't be able to live if I chose the life that I wanted to live. So it was mostly fear. So I saw these folks, they had families, they went to work, they could make a living, they could take care of themselves. And I told myself, I was like, there's nothing stopping me anymore. And when I was 23, when I told my mom, hey, I'm trans and I'm going to begin my transition in a year. So I gave her a heads up a year prior to starting my transition.
Wow, and an amazing journey. And now you are actor, singer, a major personality, an activist. Tell me a little bit about nowadays, what are some of the things that are the most important to you, and where all of this is going, because so much that you have going on with your career.
I mean, I think justice it's one of the most important things to me. Every time that I hear a story of injustice in any regard, whether it's injustice towards someone because of their sexuality, their gender identity, the way that they present, the color of their skin, background, religion, it sets me off. And at one point I was like, I felt so small, and I didn't know that I could do anything. But as a community, a world community, humanity, we can come together, even if we have different beliefs, and fight for justice, because that is the most important thing.
I definitely want to know if you could tell yourself one thing like that 19-year-old, which you know now, what would you say?
Everything's going to be okay, and you're going to get the chance and the opportunity to live as authentically as you've always dreamed.
Well, we want to thank Laith for stopping by, and for more on him, check him out, Laith Ashley. And we'll be right back with Paolo Andino, and don't touch my cookies. You don't want to miss it. You're watching The Q Agenda.